Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockins, and we have another captain joining us today.
We do.
Hi, I'm Robin from Star Trek Dark Armada.
Yes, as you've heard, this is Robin from Dark Armada. It is a fan film series, and this gentleman's very talented guy. He does a fantastic job on Dark Armada. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. All right, so Robin, tell us a little bit about Dark Armada.
Why you started all those years ago, because that's a thing to do.
Yeah, it's a bit of a thing to do. So we started about somewhere in 2005. I was about 18 years old, very young. One of the youngest fan filmmakers out there, I think. Mm-hmm. And we watched Hidden Frontier. We watched New Voyages starting out, and we thought, hey, we can do that. Just put up a green screen and edit in some backgrounds, and we'll have a film. Not knowing it would be a lot more work than just that.
That seems to be the general consensus when we talk to fan film people. It's like, oh yeah, we can do this, and then it's a lot of work.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I hear from all the other fan film producers as well. Mm-hmm. But it was just fun to have a group of people, a group of friends, coming together and making Star Trek from start to finish. So we did everything. We tried to do everything ourselves, making costumes, designs, ship designs, everything you can think of, scripts, storyboards. Mm-hmm. And we all learned how to do it, mostly.
And just so everyone knows, if you've seen Dark Armada, which you probably have, it is a more unique fan production. Most of the ones at the time were in the canon timelines, either be the TOS style or the post-Voyager, or even in between, whereas you actively went into the future, sort of. Why actually create that new look? Because it does differentiate, but also it not segregates, but it means that people don't associate as keenly as Trek. Like, were you actually trying to create an alternate universe, or was it just the future, or was it just your version? Like, what was the thought process behind new uniforms, new comm badges? Because that's a bit of a commitment.
Yeah, it was mostly because when we were making a fan film, we didn't know how to make it. And one of the problems, obviously, is trying to make it look as good as the real thing. So to make sure that people would enjoy it and didn't look at all the details that were wrong or costumes that were not up to snuff, and we decided to go a bit in the future, still keep it mostly Voyager-ish. But have our own uniforms, our own comm badges, our own designs. On the one hand, to promote the creativity of the group, and on the other side, to make sure that it doesn't really match up with the original Star Trek, of course.
Mm-hmm. Now, that's one of the things I noticed right away was the new uniforms and new comm badges. So tell us a little about that. What was that process like?
Yeah, there was like 10 versions you sort of made, and it's like, no, it's not right. Throw it away and start again. Or
well, it's a funny thing that you may have noticed a different type of uniforms being used in the different Dark Armada episodes. Mm-hmm. So in Nightfall, you'll see different style uniforms than in the other episodes before and after. It's because Nightfall was our first bigger project after we released a 10-minute short. And Nightfall was supposed to be our pilot episode. So the script said it was about 60 minutes long. The episode itself became 30, so we cut out a lot of it. But it was very ambitious, and we didn't know how to finish such a big project. So we created all the uniforms and created all the sets, cast everybody, and as the years went by, all of us improved in making this film. So we had a lot of improvement in the costumes area. We had a lot of improvements in the CGI and the exteriors, the interiors. And at some point, we created new uniforms. And because it took so long to finish, we decided to make a few short episodes that became Worst Nightmare and The Choices Part 1 and 2. But they had the new uniforms already. So we wanted to show how far along we were. And they were supposed to be 5-minute shorts, but they became 15-minute episodes, really. So that's how messed up our schedule was. So we improved so much that we wanted to show how much we improved, and then you'll see in Nightfall we're still using the older uniform style, and in all the other episodes you'll see the new uniforms.
Well, I've been loading links as we've been talking, and yeah, in Worst Nightmare you've got a super unique black-red vertical uniform, and then in Choices you have more the conventional version, and then in Nightfall you have a sort of a thicker looking, and then you have the normal uniform.
The funny story is the uniforms that we used in Worst Nightmare were the undershirts for the episodes that were the uniforms that we used in Choices, and the reason for it was because when we were shooting Worst Nightmare, the costumes were not finished yet, and the undershirts were. So we tried to make those look as good as possible, and then
they look
create
interesting
jackets later.
Yeah. So is this all part of the canon? Is the evolution of the uniforms, you know, a rollout? You know, you're part of that era.
Maybe, but
sure, whatever.
We try to ignore the stuff that was used in Nightfall. Basically, doesn't add up.
So you cling on TOS or TMP'd it. We don't talk about it with outside of the team members. We don't talk about it.
Yeah, it's different from a real production, because we're working with friends, we're working with family members, and everybody tries to contribute. And
so it's safe to say that a future episode is going to have the uniform augment virus. Yes.
That's good.
So one of the main characters of any Star Trek series is, of course, the ship, and you have a Nova class, which is the USS Batavia. How do you say that? Batavia. There we go. So what made you pick the Nova class starship as your primary ship?
Well, to be honest, that's a really good question. I don't really know why we picked it. It was a very long time ago, maybe 12, 13 years now or so. Probably the reason was because back then I was a very, very, very young captain. And a young captain wouldn't have a really big ship. So that's why we started looking probably for a smaller ship, and one that's very small and pretty is a Nova class. I think that's the reasoning behind it, although I'm not 100% sure. But it's a pretty ship, and I still think it's a pretty ship, so why not?
That's nice. It does, you know, you could have easily said, oh, because we had the 3D model available. You know, that's a lot of fan films. They use what they have, but there was some thought.
We didn't have the 3D model available. We had to make it.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So just definitely some thought at the start. I mean, that certainly makes sense. I mean, I like fan films and fan productions where the hero isn't the best person ever, isn't the flagship, isn't whatever. It's more interesting to tell stories in the side verse, and so picking one of the most underpowered ships in the Trek verse, quite a good choice, you know, for stories. And obviously we use that in Convergence as a plot point.
Well, and I gotta say, speaking of ships, I just watched Out of Time before we did this interview, and there was the USS Blue Star, which is a unique design. What's up with that ship?
It's been around since about the very beginning. We used it first in I think it was in Choices Part 1. It was first encountered, but chronologically it was also in Nightfall. So there's, you know, so
hard to keep clear in your head, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, but the idea was that Richardson was serving as a first officer first on the Blue Star, and that's what you see on on Out of Time.
Hmm.
Go back to the Blue Star, and we've seen it before. We've seen it crash on Nightfall.
Yeah. Now it's like I said, it's a unique design. So is it an original design or?
It's an original by Gwen de Mulder. He also did our Nova class, and he just made it. We didn't give him any pointers. He just wanted to make his original ship. And I'm not sure if we asked him to, or they already made it, and then we said, "Hey, let's use that one." But we named it Blue Star, and he put the name on it. So,
well, he named it Blue Star. And what's nice is that we met what, a year and a half ago now in London. You came to my fair country a while ago and said, "Who wants to meet up?" And I said, "Absolutely." And one of the first things I said is, "When we looking at the Blue Star on Trekyards?" It's one of the first things I said, because we weren't doing as much fan film content then, but you had a new ship, which was pretty rare for fan films at that point to do. I mean, a new ship and new uniforms. I mean, really, you were pioneering in your own way. And nowadays, a lot of fan films, so that's part of the sell is an original ship. That's kind of Renegades and Convergence and Romulan War, all have original things. So how's that for you? I guess you get handed this ship and say, ooh, I mean, it's an original. I mean, what was that like as a fan, especially at that time?
It's always fun to be new and unique. So I think that's the fun of it. If you recreate Star Trek, there's not really a lot of creativity in it. You're remaking the uniforms, remaking the ships, and when you're doing something new, like new uniforms or new comm badges, you think about the designs, what certain parts would do, how it would look. And at the end you can show it to everybody, so that's always fun, and some people will like it and some people don't, and I believe Nick didn't like our designs very much. He's a very canon-y guy.
Nick Cook from Star Trek and Trekyard. One thing we've learned doing Trekyards is you can't make everybody happy. No matter what you do, somebody's going to love it, somebody's going to hate it, so you just do the best you can, and
and stay true to yourself, because that's really important.
Speaking specifically of Out of Time, one of the things I really liked was the Temporal Agents uniforms. Very unique and stylized. Was that the only time they were used in this series?
Yeah, only in Out of Time.
Oh, that's a shame, because those are really nice. I think they're really well done.
Perhaps we'll see them again.
Interesting. Nice tease.
When your fan film series started, like you said, it was out of order. You could even say out of time with itself.
Wow.
Thank you. And if you go back into the channel, which is called Fan Trek Productions, you can see a rather interesting history of videos. Starting with a trailer that was out 10 years ago, or a teaser that is totally non-representative of the main show. I don't think a single shot appears in the show, but that's fine. So what was the landscape like back then? When you released, the teaser for Nightfall, say, and then other things, on YouTube. How did you even get them out to people? What was the reaction? How many views did you expect to get? What was it like actually back then with the initial things?
Well, it was a very different time. We didn't have social media. We didn't have a lot of YouTube. I think the things we put on YouTube were put on later, so it wasn't a big thing yet.
The most video is May 4th, 2007. So
yeah, that's right. So we released our first episode, our test episode, in 2005 or 6, maybe 2006, I think, January. So we didn't put it on YouTube yet. It wasn't very. It was still new, I think. I'm not sure when.
So how did people find it then?
Well, we used a lot of message boards back then. So. Hidden Frontier had its message board. There were all kinds of Star Trek message boards. Intrepid had one. We had one. They're all gone now. I'm not sure if Hidden Frontier is still on that, but they did it in a long time. They had the message board up very long. So that's how you got it out. And the main idea was not to put it out there. The idea was to make it and to have fun. and create it together and show it on conventions or to a fan club or stuff like that. That was how it went back then. And DVDs were a big thing. So we printed on DVDs for our own team, not for sale, of course, because there were a lot of copyright things also back then. Mm-hmm. But that's how things went back then.
And what was the reaction you got then from, I guess, the hardest core of Trek fans? Because nowadays anyone can find anything on YouTube, but if you're showing it to a dedicated Trek fan film message board with only the hardest core that actually have the internet and the time to use it, what was the reaction like then with quite a radically unique piece?
Well, mostly the reaction was very positive. When we showed it on events or message boards, everybody was very constructive and said, oh, well, maybe you could do this better next time. And we took that advice and put it into the next episode. Mostly constructive criticism, if not at all. But the reaction was very good. And people could see that we loved making it. So that's always nice to see. Mm-hmm. It wasn't until later that we put it on YouTube and Facebook that it was accessible to everybody, and some dickheads came around and said, oh, that's not Star Trek, the Batavia can't land, which it can, by the way.
Yes.
Like that.
It's teeny, of course it can.
Yeah, it has landing struts in the design, so
Voyager can land, Nova can certainly land.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So as we mentioned earlier, doing fan films, you usually get bogged down with this is more difficult than we initially anticipated. So what were some of the hardest and toughest things for you to overcome and deal with?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think back at the things we did and thinking it was hard to do, because we did it all together and it was fun. Mm-hmm. But there were some tricky things that we did. So in Out of Time, we did a lot of camera movement, a lot of things we wanted to try out to make it look more professional. And it's always hard to keep a team together and to keep going. And for me personally, sometimes were hard because with these fan films, and I see that with other productions as well, with Nick and with James Cawley and all the other producers out there, they are the ones that keep the whole stuff going, and that's a very hard job. Everybody looks at you and say, what are we going to do next? And usually the same people pull everybody together and decide what direction the show is going and what has to be done. And that sometimes is a heavy burden.
Now, did you have a core team of people that followed you through the whole thing, or did some people fall away and other new ones come in?
Yeah, we have a lot of people that started out from the very beginning. Yeah. And that same core people are still with us today. And along the way, we picked up a lot of interesting people who had other areas of expertise, like CGI stuff or props or costumes. They helped out a lot. So, but most of them stayed. So it's a pretty tight group, and we've become a good group of friends that hang out together besides making Star Trek. So
well, that's one thing that I loved about Nick's work, I think a lot more than other ones, is that it is the same cast, is the same continuing story, and just like with that, you guys have the same cast, or at least multiple similar, so you get, if you watch, and obviously when we did Convergence, I watched all of your content from start to finish, and there's a nice continuation factor. You can say, well, I'm going to see this person grow over the course of these out of order 6 pieces. I remember I asked for a watch order from you because that's a little bit of a thing I gotta watch. But that's certainly nice. So if there's more, when there's more, we're going to see all the same faces come back and do more.
Well, Dark Armada is finished, but some people will remain. The people that leave and come in the most are the actors. So it's hard to keep those interested. Some are there because they just wanted to act. Some are not as much a Star Trek fan as the others. So those people tend to shift a bit. But what we're doing with Batavia, our next show that we're in pre-production right now, is that we take 3 core actors and have most of these stories revolve around them, with a lot of people coming in, adding something to the story, and then the next episode somebody else will be coming in. So that's the idea for Batavia, because we're not a TV show. We don't produce 27 episodes each year. We'll be lucky if we produce 1. So we wanted to make sure that people could follow the development of the characters they're watching. So we'll just have 3 main characters. And a big difference with Dark Armada is that now we're really thinking things through. So with Dark Armada, was a lot of we used a lot of stuff we could do because it was available, and with Batavia, we're really focusing on the character development, the stories, and looking at it from a more professional perspective.
And it's worth sort of ending this interview looking at the last thing you produced, which was Out of Time, which came in 2016, which feels like a lifetime ago, because I remember when that was launched, and I watched it and I was like, oh, cool.
Well, I started writing the script for Out of Time in 2009. And I got some of the inspiration from the new Star Trek film that was coming out that year. So the idea behind it was that Dark Armada took place in the universe of the new Star Trek film. And then we worked around, we used that as an excuse to change time and go back and create an alternate reality, which is the canon universe, and then go back there and start the new show Batavia, and all reset everything, because the stories got a bit messy and all. So we wanted to find a way to reset the show and do it properly and launch the Batavia. But it takes a long time to produce, because we started writing the script in 2009. And at the time we were still finishing up maybe Choices Part 2 and Nightfall. So we were already going into production while those 2 were still in post-production. And you can see how that affects that one episode. It takes a long time to finish the other one and then get back to the new one.
Yeah. Well, I got to say, for that switch over to a new series from the old series, I like the way you did it. The ending is just, more to come kind of thing, which is cool. I think it's a nice way to do a send-off, but yet a rebirth. So awesome job.
Thanks.
You killed yourself to bring yourself back.
Yeah. Exactly.
Although, so now you are now in the Prime timeline. How much of the existing alternate style are you going to carry over into your new Prime counterpart?
That's an interesting question. We still support the idea that we want to be unique. We want to be creative and bring new elements to Star Trek. We'll be wearing new uniforms, but they will not be the same as in the canon universe. But this time we'll explain why they're different and what happened. It will still be recognizable as Dark Armada. I don't mean the costumes will be upgraded, the comm badges will be upgraded, made to look more professional, but still different from the canon Star Trek that is out there.
And the other big change is that you're now using a Rhode Island version of a Nova class.
Yeah, we wanted it to look different. So to be using the original model again would be lame. I guess. So as we want to upgrade everything to a new quality, we wanted to upgrade the ship as well. And what better way to do it than to use an upgraded version of the Nova class that is already available. We're still debating whether or not we will start with the original First Contact uniforms.
I vote yes. You know why?
Will.
Yeah.
I can't promise anything, and then we'll go into our new uniforms and explain why. Because
Speaking of,
yes,
you wear the first time ever in fan film canon the First Contact uniform in my film Convergence.
yeah,
Which we'll talk about on a separate time. But how cool is that, Robin, to wear the canon uniform in a canon uniform setting after all these years of not?
it's pretty cool. Not so much fun to make it though. It's pretty hard.
Yep.
And I think on that note, we get a nice tease for the upcoming, adventures of the USS Batavia. I think I said that right. And we also get a little tease of Convergence, which we're going to be talking to Robin about in another episode. So we'll have him back to talk about that. So
And we're going to film it on a different day and a different week. We're just going to choose to wear the same shirts.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's not going to happen in a minute or two. So you guys have to come back. But in the meantime, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'd like to thank Robin for coming on and talking to us. It's been really fun. If you haven't checked out Dark Armada, go watch them now in advance.
It's a complete saga, apparently, because they're doing a new show.
Exactly. And it leads up to a new show, which is coming out, and it also ties him in with Convergence, which is Samuel's fan film. So we're looking forward to seeing that as well.
And welcome to the Trekyards family, not just the fan film family.
Thanks for having me, guys.
All right. So until next time, guys, I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Connor Cockins, and
Robin from Dark Armada.
Bye,
We'll see you
guys.
soon, guys.